Welcome everyone. Welcome to the brand new Happy New Year, Happy Healthy New Year 2016 presentation of Understanding Cannabis. This is MomForceAZ, where you are, my nonprofit for substance abuse prevention and awareness and natural solutions. One of them being medical marijuana, an absolutely amazing solution that I've come to find in my travels in the last 8 years in Arizona. In the last 8 years, I've been a cannabis advocate. I came out because, talking to my daughter and her friends in high school and in college, and about the substances they were using and experimenting with, I thought, gosh, somebody should talk about, especially moms, should talk about the fact that cannabis has never taken a life on record. And here these kids are trying all these substances that are actually taking their life because of the overdoses and the experimentation. So I've been traveling around the state and telling our lawmakers and officials about the information I've found and what I've learned in the last 8 years here in our state. Sheriff Joe Arpaio has been the one who's listened to me the most. He's very receptive to this information because he understands that it's helping people, especially seniors at the end of their time. We got a few decades left at the end there. We want to make them the best they can be. We want to feel healthy. We want to feel, like we're out there, we're living our lives. So we're not just sitting in front of the TV, alone and wondering why our bodies don't feel good. So I'm here to spread the information that I have learned as a cannabis advocate. And I am a mom who's raised with a respect for life. I want to keep kids safe. And, I really am an Arizonan for less government intrusion. And, the government really has been intruding on our rights with this cannabis prohibition. So I feel that that's the first work of MomForce to help end cannabis prohibition in our state. Welcome. You guys are about to learn some unexpected information about a very controversial subject. This presentation is just an overview. It's just an overview. You can learn so much more. It's just brief to get you started. It's an overview of history, uses, and new research about a substance with vast benefits and potential we are just beginning to learn. In today's age, with so much information at our fingertips, ignorance is voluntary, you guys. You can get on that Google and you can look up anything you question. You can find out the right sources, make sure that you've got the right information. Discover what you can do for your own health and for your world. Now, like I said, there's going to be a brief overview today of history, environment, medicine, law and regulation, and natural solutions for your health so you can start feeling better today. Cannabis history. To get us started, cannabis sativa is the proper term for marijuana, medical marijuana. That's your proper term. That's why you hear cannabis so much and why I say cannabis. That's what it's called. It dates back thousands of years. People have been using this as a medicine, as a utility for just thousands of years. William O'Shaughnessy, thank you. I'll just let you say that. Introduced cannabis medicine into the Western world in the 1800s. Physicians to Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth, they prescribed the cannabis tincture for their pains. Prior to its prohibition, cannabis tincture was the most commonly prescribed pain reliever produced by the same pharmaceutical companies that a lot of folks have their pharmaceuticals from today. You see, colic remedy, I love that. Who gets colic? The babies. In its entire history of use, cannabis has never taken a life on record due to overdose. Please go to the National Institutes of Health. That is my first source for any medical information that I give to you. Hemp. You guys have heard of hemp, the utilitarian cousin of the medicinal cannabis plant. Was also used for thousands of years as a utility prior to prohibition. Our first American flag, the first draft of our U.S. Constitution, U.S. currency itself, money, was made out of hemp. All ropes and sails for our ships, plus much, much, much more. In 1916, the U.S. Department of Agriculture released the Bulletin 404, basically describing hemp as the new way for paper. That was going to be the new way. It was going to pretty much replace trees if we wanted it to. A little bit later, Popular Mechanics told us this is the new billion-dollar crop. In 1938, this came out just a year after the Marijuana Tax Act. We found out that hemp could replace virtually all paper, chemicals, and oils that that people were using, and that were so bad for our environment, actually. And the environmental advantages of hemp also, they were realizing that hemp fiber could be produced without chemical pesticides, so you don't even need those pesticides to kill the bugs when you're growing hemp. Hemp stock produced 4 times the utility as a tree does, so we could get rid of that deforestation. Hemp will grow in almost any soil and gradually improves it. And again, all oil and chemically based clothing, which we know nylons, or all of these manufactured clothing, were based in based clothing, plastic paints, and solvents, just to name a few, could be replaced with this non-toxic natural fiber. Even cars could be fueled with hemp. So they're learning this, they're knowing this. However, they had a problem. So they created the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937. It was the first federal measure to regulate cannabis, just 5 years after the state measure, Uniform State Narcotics Act of 1932. They decided that didn't go far enough, that they needed a federal thing to stamp out this plague of hemp/marijuana that was happening because, well, you'll see in a second, it was written by Harry Anslinger, the head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, now the DEA, and he stayed at that position until the early 60s. What it did is it imposed a very large tax on cannabis and allowed, other crops to become the better investment for those that were investing, and a more affordable option. It caused confusion with the term marijuana, which is a slang term brought by the immigrants that they were so scared were going to take their jobs during the Great Depression. So honestly, that all of this coming together, using a term like marijuana, really kind of threw off people like the American Medical Association that used this cannabis tincture because they knew it as cannabis. Come on in, make yourself at home. They were using this cannabis tincture, and they never heard this word marijuana, so they were able to slip this thing by. They later fought it, but doctors began to lose their licenses for fighting, for using and prescribing this. There have been, through the years, implications of corporate and government collusion, because the fellow Harry Anslinger was actually the nephew of Andrew Mellon, who was a Secretary of State back then. Andrew Mellon was a banker and an investor with oil, paper, and chemical. So there were certainly rumors of that. This was supported by Randolph Hearst, whose fortune was in timber, in paper, and in newspaper publishing. So it was supported by him. And since he did, he was able to do this Reefer Madness propaganda campaign on the American public, because it was really, the newspapers were the only source of information. And since, again, the Great Depression saw lost jobs and a wave of new workers coming from the South. These Southern folks, they are Mexicans, folks were using cannabis recreationally. So that's the way they were able to demonize it. They called it marijuana, said that these people, they're coming to heaven help you, rape your women are going to run off and be crazy because of this marijuana. And so Hearst's newspaper accentuated the fears and prejudices through something called yellow journalism, which is sensationalist journalism like the National Enquirer. And that's all anybody had. They didn't have the internet, and people couldn't talk to each other like they do on Facebook nowadays and get more information. So even with this Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, our U.S. government needed hemp. So they encouraged, a few years later in 1942, they encouraged farmers to grow hemp because our embargoes, China was making hemp and they had this product. We didn't have this product and we needed it, so they went ahead and let them do it for a little while just so we could get our products back to where they should be. Here's Lister Dewey cultivating hemp on a plot called Arlington Farms, which today is the Pentagon. This guy was actually on that Bulletin 404. He was part of that movement. And there he was growing it on the Pentagon. Excuse me while I take a drink of water. I'll remind my husband this shuts off after 20 minutes. Thanks, everyone. A few years later, 1944, they came out with the LaGuardia Report, which basically was the New York Academy of Medicine. They released this study on cannabis and said it doesn't induce violence, insanity, or sex crimes. It doesn't lead to addiction or other drug use. Well, they just dismissed that entirely like they did when they arrested doctors for using cannabis. They just threw it under the bus. The Boggs Act, 1951. Boggs Act set mandatory minimum sentences at 2 years and up to $20,000 for possession of cannabis. Well, who the heck's going to go near it now? Then you came up to 1970, where the Controlled Substance Act, federal drug regulation, classified cannabis as a Schedule I drug. Now, for those of you that don't know what Schedule I means, it's no medical value, no medicinal value whatsoever, highly addictive, and the most dangerous of all substances. Even through that, in 1999, while labeled a Schedule I drug, still with no medicinal value, the United States government filed for and obtained a patent for cannabis as a neuroprotectant and antioxidant in the late 90s. There it is. Anyone can look it up online and take a look at that. Cannabis remains a Schedule I drug and is federally illegal, and that's why you can't get it at the pharmacy. Since 1996, 23 states have passed medical cannabis or adult use laws. And why? We have an endocannabinoid system in our body. If you don't know what that is, it's like a nervous system to receive the medicine in cannabis. We receive these cannabinoid compounds in cannabis. Chemical compounds in marijuana, cannabis, fit like keys into receptors on cells all over our human body. The receptors serve as keyholes to chemicals produced within the human body, and they control processes ranging from pain to thought to inflammation and to the immune system. Here's a little illustration about it, and you can find this information at the National Institutes of Health. CBD. There's been a lot of talk about CBD. Cannabidiol is a compound in cannabis that has medical effects but does not make people feel high and can actually counter the psychoactive effects of THC. THC is that famous one, delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. I'm sorry. THC for me works better.
Have to be stoned to say that.
But yes, it would roll right off my tongue then, right? It's the primary psychoactive ingredient. It's the famous high that people feel, THC. It gives the elevated euphoric high feeling. Depending on the particular plant, either THC or CBD is the most abundant cannabinoid within. Now, CBD hemp-only products. If you don't mind, raise your hand if you've tried these. Has anyone tried these CBD hemp-only products? Now, I will say about these CBD hemp-only products that many, many folks have told me. Number one, they are legal. They have no THC in them, so you can be drug tested for this and you're fine. You don't have to worry if you have a job and you can't use medical marijuana, you can use this. Come on in, make yourself at home. These products that are CBD only, they come most often in a tincture form, and you just take it as a dietary supplement. It is absolutely wonderful for many people, and they've found that some of their old pains have actually gone away. One woman said she couldn't turn her head a certain amount, and then she was able to. Another one said she had IBS for 20 years, and then it went away. So these little things are worth trying. It's very inexpensive. It's CBD only. Again, it's legal, and you can purchase it today, anywhere. Amazon, I think, is most usual. That's where people go most often. What are the side effects of cannabis? If you take more than the recommended dose, you may feel some unpleasant side effects, for sure. There's no doubt. They will keep you from enjoying the healthy benefits. I think that's the worst thing that can happen, is somebody takes this the wrong way, and then they never try it again. Because when you take this the right way, it's so beneficial. There's so many health benefits. So it's so important that folks get the right information. It's another reason that I'm here. Some people report feeling very sleepy, dizzy, and sometimes even nauseous when they've consumed too much. Those who overindulge have also experienced paranoia and an inability to sleep. Now, as with any substance, nothing should be overdone. When it is, obviously there's going to be harmful side effects. Unlike FDA-approved pain medications that take a life every 20 minutes in the United States, one side effect cannabis cannot cause is death. It absolutely cannot. And I will tell you why. Here it is. It says it right there from National Cancer Institute. Because cannabinoid receptors, unlike opioid receptors, that's in alcohol and your opiate drugs, are not located in the brainstem area controlling your respiration, lethal doses from cannabis and cannabinoids do not occur. Okay, here's however, now that gets into, you guys can go to this on your own. I didn't clip this for any reason at all. However, they will go into other side effects like the ones I described earlier. Death cannot occur. Pain management. This is absolutely effective. It's the least addictive, again, according to National Institutes of Health. It is a natural anti-inflammatory. So anti-inflammatory things are always going to calm down things in your body and help you get out of that pain situation. Again, go to the National Institutes of Health and you can just read all day about the medical benefits of cannabis. Opioid pain medication overdoses reduced 25% in states with medical cannabis laws, according to the Journal for the American Medical Association. This study was released in August of 2014. This is very, very important, and the trend is going. It's continuing. It's very important that people understand that when you use cannabis for pain instead of these opiates, people don't die. And that's, for me, it's one of my bottom lines. If you can't die, this is a substance we must explore, we must make legal, and we must give access to everyone for. Arthritis. Arthritis is one of those things, you know, again, anti-inflammatory. Osteoarthritis develops from wearing cartilage, and rheumatoid arthritis develops due to poor immune system. Now, cannabis helps with both of those things. This affects 31 million Americans. The pain's caused by inflammation, primarily. The prescribed pain medications that they give, come on in, that they give for arthritis are absolutely debilitating. And the list of side effects goes on.
My goodness.
Everybody squeeze in. All right. Sorry that's a little cumbersome there.
Sorry, I'm late.
No worries, no worries. Just glad you made it. Glad you made it. All right. And cannabis provides anti-inflammatory medicine for joints, but cannabis is it's also, this year has been recently discovered to actually build bone matter back. And that's something, again, ignorance is voluntary. Get on the Google, all about bone building in cannabis. And here it is, here's one. Oh, yeah, cannabis found to heal broken bones, but the Schedule I status makes further research into medical marijuana difficult. Well, there's, you know, there it is. That and everything else. As a neuroprotectant, cannabis protects our brain's neurons from the toxins that lead to neurodegenerative diseases, which affect 52% of our friends 85 years and older. And even activating our cannabinoid receptors triggers neuron growth, which is pretty astounding. So it slows progression of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Huntington's. But more research equals, you know, more possibilities. And that's where we're at. Cannabis calms muscle spasms and stops seizures.